This is part number 2 for the review for lección número 1, Portales 1. So we're talking or we're looking at numbers from 0 to 30. So this is very important that you memorize these numbers. There are not really other ways to remember these numbers. Some of them have patterns, but from 0 to 30, you're not going to see that pattern so clear. That's why it's important to look at the numbers from 0 to 30, and then you're going to start seeing the pattern more obvious. So you're going to see the numbers, then I recommend you to study these numbers and learn and memorize these numbers. You're going to see in here that they start having accent in some of them. So pay attention to that and see that there's no space in between. So there are several ways that you can study these. For example, then again, those flashcards you have available in VHL Central. In relation to the numbers, you can ask how many people or how many things there are. So it is very important that you learn these numbers along with how to say there is or there are. And in this particular slide, we're talking about cuantos and cuantas, which refer to how many in masculine and how many in feminine. So if you want to ask how many, for example, chairs, you have to remember if chair, which in Spanish is silla, you have to remember if that word is feminine or if it's masculine. So for example, let's say cuántas sillas or cuántos libros. We have books. Books is masculine. ¿Cuántos libros? ¿Cuántas sillas? But we also need something else. I. I means there is or there are. So actually we don't have different words for there is or there are. In Spanish, we only use I. So if you say, ¿cuántos estudiantes hay? How many students are there? ¿Cuántas sillas hay? How many chairs are there? Okay, so I can be a statement or can also be used in a question, okay? So you can say, ¿cuántos hay? How many of these are there or there is? And then you have the answer. There are, using the same I. ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay? Hay 6 estudiantes en la foto. Are there any guys in the picture? ¿Hay chicos en esta fotografía? Hay 3 chicas. There are 3 girls. Y no hay chicos. And there are no guys. So once again, you can use I as a statement or as a question. If you want to know how many, you have to ask ¿cuántos for masculine and cuántas for feminine? ¿Cuántos hay or cuántas hay? So let's go to the next grammar point. Subject pronouns. So this is going to be related to people that perform actions. And you're going to see the subject pronouns we have in Spanish, and those are related to also the subject pronouns we have in English. So yo means I. Tú means you. It says familiar because you can use tú when you're talking to friends, when you're talking to classmates, when you're talking to students that are your same age, when you're talking to your brothers or your siblings. But it's very common that in Latin America we use also the word usted. So this is to refer to people that are older than you or that you respect, like your doctor or your professor. you obviously have a little bit more of respect when you address to them. So you're not going to go ahead and say tú, because that shows that you are very familiar with that person. Instead, we use usted. And sometimes you're going to see that abbreviated as UD. Then we have él, he, ella, she, nosotros, we, masculine. We already said that all the time we have to establish if it's feminine or masculine. Then we have nosotras, we in feminine. Vosotros, this is used in Spain. You, it's like saying you all in masculine. Y'all in feminine, vosotras. Ustedes, y'all in Latin America. Ellos, they, masculine. Ellas, they, feminine. I know that you see that this might be a lot, but you're going to get familiar with this as you progress, or you have more knowledge about Spanish and the Spanish language. So, like I explained before, tú is used when you are talking to a friend or a family member. Usted is to address to a person who is not as familiar to us, or it's a little bit like, your boss, or your the dean of the school, or the chair of the school. So you have a little bit more respect, or that relationship is a little bit more distant, okay? So you're going to use tú. You are from Canada, right? You're talking to David. David might be a friend, or might be someone your age. Usted es la profesora de español. Are you the Spanish professor? So you're using usted in this context. So, like I said, we have also the plural forms. We have nosotros, we have vosotros, ellos, but we also have nosotras, vosotras, ellas. So this is to establish the difference between the male, and the female, okay? So you can see in here, nosotros, vosotros, or ellos. So we can say we, if we are, included in this picture. Vosotros, you all, if we're talking to these guys. Or ellos, they, if we're talking about these guys. We can say in here nosotros, vosotros, or ellos. So it can be used in several ways, depending on who we're talking about, or if we are included in the group. Nosotras, vosotras, or ellas. So if we are included in the group, so for example, I say my brothers and I'm going to say nosotros, like we. If I say my brothers, but I am not included, I'm talking to them, I'm going to say vosotros. You all are my brothers. And if I'm talking about them, but not to them, I'm going to say ellos. They are my brothers. So then we use these nouns along with the conjugation of the verb ser, which in English is to be. So we don't use the verb to be in English like I to be or you to be. We have a conjugation. Instead of saying I to be, I say I am. So this is the same for the Spanish. The verb is the verb ser, but we don't say yo ser. I have to conjugate that, and I'm going to say yo soy. Then each of these conjugations change depending on the pronoun that we have in here. Yo soy, tú eres, usted es, él es, ella es. So they share this conjugation. These three share this conjugation. Nosotros or nosotras somos. We are. Vosotros, vosotras sois. You all are. Ustedes, ellos, ellas son. Ustedes son means you all are, but used in Latin America. Ellos, ellas son mean they male or they female are. Ser is also used to along with de to express origin. So for example, de donde eres means where are you from? I am from Wisconsin. Yo soy, I am from Wisconsin. ¿De dónde es usted? Where are you from? She is talking to her, but since they are not the same age, she has a little bit more respect, and then she addressed to her as usted. And she says, I am from Cuba. So this is a perfect example when just think about the situation when in English you would use ma'am or sir. That is the situation in Spanish when we are going to use usted. So if you think that you would say yes ma'am or excuse me ma'am, then in Spanish you would be using usted. We also use ser, to be, to express profession or your occupation. Don Francisco es conductor. So we have in here a name. We don't have a he anymore. But we're going to imagine, or we're going to equate Don Francisco, which is a male, to be he. So since this is a he, we're going to use that conjugation es, él es. So we can replace that he with a lot. So for example, I can say, mi padre, my dad, is, my brother, mi hermano, es, Don Francisco es, mi amigo, my friend, my male friend, mi amigo es. And then in here we have another example. Yo soy estudiante. Yo soy de Carolina del Norte. Yo soy profesora. Yo soy mexicana. So we can say, we can use this to express where I am from, to express my profession, my occupation. So we are going to use that verb ser for express multiple things. Finally, we're going to talk about how to tell the time in Spanish. So we're going to relate this to the time on the clock. The question to ask about the time is ¿qué hora es? When we want to give an answer to that question, we are going to say, or we're going to use es, la, and we also can use son las. What's the difference? We're going to use es la when we're talking about 1 o'clock, and son las when we're talking about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, because remember we have to establish the relationship between singular, es, la, this is singular, both of them are singular, and son las, both of them are to talk about plural. So in here we have examples. Es la una. Son las dos. We cannot say es las dos. We cannot say that. Son las seis. So we can also tell the time by adding minutes just like in English. Son las 4:05. Son las 11:20. We can also use words like y cuarto, y 15, y media, y 30. So 12:30 and 7:30. We have different ways to tell the time as well. And this is a little bit more tricky. This is subtracting the time that you have to reach to that hour. So that's, you have to pay attention there. What or how many minutes you have to reach that time.